Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we proudly present our spectacular show of podcast magic and imagination full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture. It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast with Jenn and David Dollar.
Welcome back, Jen.
Well, thanks, Dave.
Finally, you're back on the show after
giving
me the keys to the car for a week or so, and I got to talk about All Stars.
Did you wreck it?
Week,
Did you wreck the
car?
car?
No, I did not. I talked about All Stars, which I know.
Well, so you wrecked the car. I got it.
You're like, I don't know what that means. What is All Stars?
I'm confused. Why did you talk about something fictional?
I talked about it when you weren't there, so that way you didn't have to come up with something, and you didn't have to be like, "Yes, I'm reading what you wrote me. Yes, I love the All Stars. They are a great place for the families to go to Riviera, go to Floridian." That's what you need. So,
the grand.
Book the Grand. Welcome back. And of course, this is episode 162 of the Main Street Electric Podcast. And we've got our good friend Sarah from Purple Banana Travel. And you know what? I'm not even sure I know your last name. I just know Sarah Goes Bananas.
I'll just be Sarah Goes Bananas.
For like
I love
6
that.
straight months, it's just Sarah Goes Bananas.
It's Ghost Bananas.
No last name. It's
Jen,
like
like,
Cher or
yes.
Right? I'm just
exactly.
Sarah Goes Bananas.
I told Jen, I'm like, yeah, so Sarah Goes Bananas is going to be on the show. And she was like, oh, that's awesome. She knew exactly who I was talking about.
This is literally it. Kylie. She's like, oh yeah, the other day Sarah Goes Bananas post. And this is just how we.
Yep. It's my first and last name now. I'm good with that.
Pretty much. Exactly. And I think we're friends on Facebook now. And I was like, I guess I could look on Facebook, but it's just Sarah Goes Bananas. So there you go. And we'll get to all that in just a minute. But first, Jen, I'm going to ask you, how did you Disney this week?
Oh, I'm copping out this week. I'm wearing my newer Walt Disney World shirt. It's bright blue and it's got sparkles and it makes me happy and it has the castle on it. So
and this is a week you need happy because it's been a crazy 2 weeks for you.
It has been. I have not really had space to breathe for 2 solid weeks, and I don't see much of an end in sight. So that's okay.
It's fine. Like you own a travel agency, a successful agency. It's like you have a whole, a couple of dozen people under your care, and you're having to sign things and talk to vendors and have interviews. And I don't understand, Jen. You act like all of this is true.
I know. Womp womp.
Exactly. Now, Sarah, I got to ask you now, how did you Disney this week?
Yeah, we were in Florida on a family vacation, and so we stayed at the Polynesian.
Ooh,
and we didn't go into the parks.
Approve.
Yes,
I love
this was
that.
a very unique Disney trip for us. 5 out of 6 of my family members are pass holders, and so we get to go fairly often.
Mm-hmm.
But this was just a few days before we headed to the beach to just kind of, hold some space while we were traveling. And when we snagged a night at the Poly, I was like, well, I want to be at the Poly. I don't want to be in the park. So we just hung out at the Poly, and it was really amazing.
Well, especially given how hot it is in Florida, that was the right choice.
Yeah, the pool is where your kids actually want to be on vacation. And so they got a whole lot of that. We spent just about 2 full days in the pool with a quick break for Dole Whip.
Lovely.
Oh,
perfection.
This is like the perfect vacation. This is fantastic.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Well, I was here in the hot Alabama sun, and it's not the hot Florida sun, but it might as well be because we don't get the benefit of theme parks. All we have is hot. That's it. It's like it was 94 degrees yesterday, and I think that it felt like 117 or something. It's insane. And it's the humidity as well. And humidity is just awful. And so my escape basically is to go to the movies. If I'm not in the house, I go to the movies. And I got to see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny this past week. Got to see an opening night. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. I thought the first 3 movies are incredible. My favorite is Temple of Doom. I'm in the vast minority with this, which both films, Last Crusade and Raiders, are both fantastic films. So it's almost like I'm picking up my favorite cheesecake in the Cheesecake Factory, counter. All the cheesecakes are good. I just might like one a little bit more than the others, Dial of Destiny, I thought was great. I thought it was a great wrap up to the series. I thought it was just really well done. I thought the story was fun. It does have kind of some of those in the third act, some of those moments of like, okay, this is kind of odd that they took it this direction. But also in Raiders, people's faces melted off. And in Temple of Doom, we got a guy with his heart ripped out. And in the Last Crusade, they walked across an invisible bridge and got the cup that Jesus drank water out of. True. So fantastical is not really a word that comes to mind. That's too far fetched for some of these. I didn't care for Crystal Skull, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was really, really well. Families can see this. It does have some violence in it because a lot of these movies do, but it's more of a actiony kind of violence. You don't see a lot of blood. You don't see a lot of bloodshed. Nobody's getting really like tore up or anything, violently and stuff. It's part of the story. So fan of the movie, I suggest it. And Jen, you said your parents saw it, right?
Yeah, they loved it. They were big
Good.
fans.
Good.
So
Good.
Mhm.
Now,
Now
Sarah,
I'm
I don't
really
know.
curious. I'm really curious
Yes.
what cheesecake are you going to order if you're at the Cheesecake Factory?
I'm a big fan of just plain cheesecake, but I also like blueberry cheesecakes, strawberry cheesecakes, anything with like the fruit topping on it, everything. I'm a big fan of those. I don't like nuts. I don't like pecans, peanuts, anything like the turtle. I don't really get into that. New York style cheesecake is fantastic though. And there is a place in town, which I think it's actually closed. They used to serve warm cheesecake with whipped cream on top. So the whipped cream would melt over the cheesecake and it was delicious. And yeah, I can't really eat that now because I'm trying to lose weight for the fall. I know it
I don't
sounds
know
weird,
that
but warm cheesecake,
that's
oh, it was so good.
weird.
It was
That's
delicious. So
ugh,
good.
disagree.
And yeah, that's how they were known in town, which unfortunately again they closed down. So maybe they weren't known as well as they should have.
Well, maybe it's because their cheesecake was warm.
So we met Sarah, just as a kind of behind the scenes. We met Sarah at the race in February for the half princess, the half marathon, princess marathon. And
Well, we were running
all
the
spent Santa-
5K. Let's be very clear
Yeah.
about that.
Yes, we
None
were
of
running
us
the
did
5K.
Full
I was saying the
transparency.
event was the half marathon, but it was the 5K itself. And of course, I met Sarah actually on the Wish a couple weeks before that,
Mhm.
and which was great because I got to go. It was a travel agency thing where a lot of travel agencies sent people, and I got to go and meet a bunch of great people and a few people I'm still talking to, including Sarah herself. And then of course we found out ran into her at the marathon. And we're all there. We're all waiting on Kyla, whose bus was just rerouted like 15
a
times. She
zillion
couldn't get there,
times.
which I guess is kind of serendipitous because had her bus been there on time, I don't know that we would have run into Sarah because she came running in as we were waiting, and I was like, "Hey," and she was like, "Hey," and we did the whole
You
"Hey, how you doing?"
texted me
thing.
like I was there all by myself, and all of a sudden you messaged me and was like, "Was that you who just went
Yes,
through
I saw you walk
security?"
by. Well, you walked
Yes.
by in a group of people, and I thought that was your
Yep.
mob. I thought that was your people, and so you were like, "No, I'm by myself." So you circle back around, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, Jen, this is Sarah. Hey, Sarah." And of course,
Hey.
Jen doesn't meet a stranger, and you met everybody, and then Kylie comes in, and so Sarah joined us, and we got to all run together. We got to all run / mostly walk / sometimes run together, which was
I
great.
mean, we just had rights. That's fine.
It was fun. It was a fun time. So Sarah
It
and I
was a
have now
wonderful
become
time.
we
My
have now
Disney
become
events are
friends.
always better with people. So I was so
Yes.
grateful that y'all made room for me in your circle and that we could do that
Always.
together.
Well, it was
Absolutely.
a lot of fun, and I'm glad that Jen liked you because she's very picky about people. I'm just kidding. She likes everybody until she doesn't. But
Well,
just
Well,
like any of us,
I
really.
am actually registered for the half next
Are
February. So I'm going to do the
you?
5K and the
Oh.
half.
Oh,
Look
Yeah.
yeah.
at
See,
you.
I'm
I
pushing
thought
it.
about the
Yep.
5K and the 10K, but I was like, I don't want to spend $250 on this. I just don't, because I had already spent money on the virtual for this summer, and the Jollywood tickets were coming out. So I'm like, my
Mhm.
budget's like, no, please don't do this anymore. Just, my wife's like, I'm having to answer questions. Anytime my wife calls me downstairs from my office, she's like, hey, come down here. Come down there. And I see her looking at the bank statement online. So tell me what this charge is here. Man,
No, just
gonna
don't
have this
look. Just pay it.
conversation.
Don't
Just
look.
pay
Which
it.
Disney charges this? Well,
Yep.
here's the deal. So, and Sarah Goes Bananas is on Instagram and has an incredible following on Instagram.
Mhm.
And I love your posts on Instagram. They're very informative. They're very fun. And I've actually sent you several questions going, how'd you do that? So you're always great about like responding, going, do this, which is awesome. So make sure you follow Sarah Goes Bananas on there. Of course, you're with Purple Travel Banana. And can you tell the story real quick?
Close.
Purple Banana Travel. That's what I
Yes.
mean. Yes.
Yes.
Words mixed up sometimes I get. So tell me a little bit about Purple Banana. Where did that even come from? What is that even
Oh,
mean?
that's a great question. And we actually have our own podcast. If you go to Disney Vacations Demystified,
Mhm.
episode 1 tells our origin story. And we knew from the get-go that we wanted to be a fun agency that's maybe a little bit disruptive in the Disney travel space. It seems like everybody is magical castles and confetti
Mhm.
travel or something like
Right,
that, right? And we
right.
wanted something completely different because we know that we do things a little bit different. We're cool with that. So we tried on all kinds of like fruit plus a color or animal plus a color or something like that. And our working title became Purple Banana. And when my business partner Erica pitched that, she said, it's not this because this is ridiculous. But let's just call, like, we didn't have a title yet. So like, okay, we just started calling it this. And we talked and talked for hours and couldn't figure out anything else. And so I finally said to her on the phone, I said, we better stop calling it Purple Banana or we're going to get stuck here.
And there you are.
And here we are.
And here we
Purple
are.
banana
Yeah.
travel. Yep.
Yeah.
So I actually, after like 24 hours of chewing on this, went and Googled and thought like, okay, what else is out there that's purple banana that I need to be aware of? And it turns out that purple banana is lyrics in a Prince song, in the song Let's Go Crazy. That song talks all about creating
Nice.
the kind of life that you want, even when it doesn't make sense to anybody else, right? Like do
Mhm.
it your way. And it says, let's go look for purple bananas till they throw us in the truck. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that was it. Sold. So here we are.
Nice. Love it. And I love the fact that we all, of course, can all be friends and all work together on this and everything. And
This is
and
the
because
best
we're
thing
all,
about the Disney space is that
Oh, it's
there's
so
room
great.
for everybody to
Yeah.
do it their own way.
There is.
Absolutely.
And there's
Right.
more families going to Disney than any of us could realistically care for. And so your people are going to find you, David. My people are going to find me. And
Yep.
we're just going to all do this together and be friends.
I
Exactly.
love it. I
That's
love
the
it.
way.
And we're all friends. I even
We
told
are.
her,
And that's the way we've always operated. And that's,
Yeah.
and I
Yep.
like that.
there's enough for everybody. It's okay. So
The table always expands for good people.
That's right.
yes,
That
the
is
whole
correct.
boat floats. Everybody floats
When
on
the
boat.
tide rises, we
Tides
all
are
float.
rising. The tide is
Uh-huh.
high
You-
more than I can.
You're almost there.
whatever.
Almost there, David. Dollar.
Exactly. I'm circling around until I get there. But speaking of travel, we're going to talk about travel hacks today. And I thought
Yes.
Sarah Goes Bananas would be a
gotta
great
pull up my
person to have
list.
on for this because your Instagram is a lot of travel hacks. Your Instagram is a lot of, hey guys, if you thought about this, thought about doing that. So I have a list of topics here, and not just Disney. We'll get to Disney in a minute, but I kind of want to talk just through some basic travel hacks from people, things they need to know, things maybe they're not thinking about. First would be passports. Let's just say somebody wants to get a passport for the very first time. Like this was me a couple of years ago. I'd never gotten a passport before. I went to get my passport, went to the local drugstore. They had a passport thing. The guy, for whatever reason, told me I wasn't allowed to smile in my picture. So I have this very dour, frown look. I hate my passport picture, which I guess everybody hates theirs.
Everybody hates their
Correct.
passport
But
picture.
mine is terrible. I look like a serial killer.
It doesn't
It's
matter.
awful.
Everybody
But
does.
is it true that you're not allowed to smile? Can you give any kind of expression in your passport picture?
You're supposed to have a neutral expression in your
Maybe that's what
passport
he was
photo.
trying. Yeah, maybe he
Mhm.
couldn't come up with the word neutral. I don't know.
Like, I think I did like a little half,
A half smile,
and they didn't
you
yell at
wouldn't-
me. So I'm like, okay, we're going to go.
so you wouldn't look sociopathic. My wife got one. Stephanie has a big smile on hers. I mean, now she's not like grinning like that, but she's smiling on her new passport. And I'm like, see, I look
Neutral is
terrible.
smiling for me.
So what do we need to
Yes.
know about passports? What do we need to know? What do people need to know that have they ever got a passport before? What are some things that they need to know off the top?
Well, number one, you got to plan way ahead right now. The
Yes.
backlog for passports to process once you've applied is exponentially longer than it actually should be.
Mhm.
And so don't wait till the last minute. Just get it done. As soon as you book that trip, put your application in, get your photos done,
Mhm.
and then don't stress. You don't need anything more to stress about in your life.
Right. Because it is. And also, I mean, I'll say, even if you expedite, it's still right now, 6 to 8 weeks, I think, even for expedited passports, which
Yeah.
is bananas.
It is
Right.
bananas. I actually had a friend who paid for expedited passports for her entire family,
Mhm.
and 4 of them came in quick-ish, like in that 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
One of them took 17 weeks, and it was expedited.
What?
Mhm.
Wow.
How?
So I wouldn't
just-
even count on expedited. If you really
Yeah.
need it in a short timeline, I might find an office near you where you can do a same-day appointment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you've got a trip coming up and it's really becoming urgent, reach out to your congressman and see if they can help.
Mhm. Absolutely.
What about expiration dates? I've often heard that your passport, even if your passport expires after your trip, there still needs to be a buffer zone there of expiration. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yeah. For most countries, it's actually 6 months minimum with 2 blank pages on your passport.
Right. So if you're going on a trip, say September, and your passport expires in November, you need to go ahead and get your passport taken care of right now, because that's too close of a little
Mhm.
window there. So
It does
Very
depend
cool.
on the country, but
Yeah.
most countries.
now, when
Plain
you're
safe.
renewing a passport,
Yeah.
is there anything else we need to know about renewing? Any differences on that? I mean, is it something different you do other than just check that new box?
I think renewing by mail is so much easier.
So
Go get
much
new
easier.
photos taken and just mail the thing
Right.
in. They're going to send you a renewal application when you
Mhm.
hit that expiration date. So just do that.
Totally. Still easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Flights. Let's talk about flights now. Oh, one more thing about passports. When it comes to cruises, I've had clients that ask me about passports. Do I need a passport in closed loop cruise? I tell them no because honestly, you don't have to get a passport. You really officially don't, but I highly recommend that you do. I highly recommend that you do. If you're leaving the country for any reason, even if you're just going to the Bahamas for 3 days,
Doesn't
and
matter.
coming back, even if you don't want to get all the kids' passports, even if it's just too much, make sure you and your spouse have passports. Make sure the adults have them at least, so at least you'll have something there. Because it can be pricey. But why would you tell people to get passports for even closed loop cruises that seem pretty innocuous, pretty easy?
I'm one of those people that if my feet are on foreign soil, I want to have a passport on my person. So I don't even leave it in the safe in my room. It's on me when I'm getting off the ship. If something happens, I have a medical emergency, I miss the ship departure time. If you're in a foreign country without your passport, you have very few options, and it can be very difficult to deal with those. So again, I just like low stress. I don't want to worry about something happening and not having the resources available. Know where your embassy is in the country that you're traveling to and have your passport on you. That's like non-negotiable for me when I'm traveling.
And also leave a copy of your passport at home with somebody trusted. And then I always keep a copy as well. So yes, I have my physical passport on me, but I also keep a copy of my passport in a separate location from where my physical passport is. Because again, if God forbid something happens, the passport's lost or stolen, you have a copy of that to take to the embassy to
Here's a really easy hack. You can actually scan it with your phone and text it to yourself, text it to your spouse, text it to a trusted friend. You've got a digital
or your travel
copy.
agent, which we would love
or
to get
your
a copy
travel
of.
advisor.
Yeah.
And then you've got a digital copy that you can access while you're traveling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because I don't like the idea any sentence starting with, okay, we need to find the embassy in the country. That's a bad day. That's just a bad day all around.
It's not a good day.
Not a good day at all. Let's talk about flights. Flights are crazy right now, and not just crazy expensive, but the TSA is, the lines are just insane. And of course, I shared the story coming back from Pittsburgh. I thought I had plenty of time, and the TSA line was literally out the door onto the sidewalk where the road was from the airport,
which is so weird.
Which is,
for
and
Pittsburgh.
this was 5 in the morning, and I had everybody,
So weird.
including yourself, Jen, from Pittsburgh, going, "I've never heard of this happening.
Never.
Holy crap!" My biggest thing on TSA PreCheck is get PreCheck. Get it. It lasts like 5 years. I mean, yes, it's, even if you don't have a lot of money, it's $80-90 out of your pocket, which is it can be a little much depending on who you are, but it's going to save you so much time in the long run. There are a few airports, of course, that struggle with it. Denver, I've heard that sometimes theirs closes randomly. I've been to Denver before when their TSA PreCheck wasn't open. I had to go through the regular line.
David, I think from experience, we know that Orlando closes at 8 p.m.
Yes, and they will also close at 8 p.m. So find out from the airport, if you have night flights, find out, does your TSA PreCheck close at a certain time? You can always call the airport line, go online. But PreCheck, I think, is just a must. Make sure you do that. So what are some travel hacks when it comes to flights, booking and flying?
The times that I have been to an airport where the PreCheck line was closed, I have to go through the regular line, but they've given me a card that says I have PreCheck, so I still get to keep my shoes on and leave my electronics in the bag. So it's not really safe. Well, it is saving me time, saving me the convenience of unpacking all my stuff, even if I have to wait in the regular line. So it's still
not
worth
as
it.
bad.
It's not as bad at all.
And I would actually even posit that if you're somebody who goes out of the country a fair amount, or even like once a year, if for the extra fit, because it's $85 for TSA PreCheck, it's $100 for global entry. Just bump that up by $15. Just get
global entry. I agree. That's totally worth it.
Totally. Like, especially in Atlanta. I'm sorry. You lay over in Atlanta, you're like, oh, that was $15 well spent.
So global entry, does it serve as your PreCheck plus a few extra benefits, or do you have you have to do both? Now, if you have PreCheck, can you bump up can you pay the difference to global entry? Is that something you have to get done?
No, I think you have to apply.
Yeah, see, I've only got
PreCheck.
I do too. I only have PreCheck, and I'm kicking myself. I wish that I'd had the hindsight to say, like, oh, you're going to be traveling internationally, go get global.
See, Jen, I blame you for this. You should have told me this. It's my travel advisor. You should have let me know these things. It's just, this is on you.
Sometimes credit cards, travel credit cards will also reimburse you for global entry or TSA PreCheck application fees. So check on what's in your wallet and see if you can get a freebie that way.
Absolutely.
What's in your wallet? Very good. Let's talk about flights themselves, booking the flights, flying. Now I fly Southwest. I'm very minimal, and a lot of time, most of the time, I actually fly myself, just by myself. And sometimes I'll fly with the family, but as I'm going through agency trips and stuff, it's just me. I'm somebody who does the 24 hours immediately because I like the window seat. I love a window seat versus an aisle seat. Hate the middle. So I'm pretty good about getting the window seats and stuff. But
I'm a buy early bird. I'm too lazy.
so it depends on what it is. It depends on what it is. And I actually was going to do that in Pittsburgh, except for the line was ridiculous. And so I didn't get any of that. But I will say this, as a parent of an autistic child, when traveling with an autistic child, get your medical exemption on your ticket. If you don't have it already, go to the desk, get it on there. What that allows you to do is a lot of times it'll allow you to board first. Now we try to get the bulkhead. We try to get right there in the front where they have the open space. There's no tray table and everything, but it allows our child to, when we were able to safely get up, it allows him a little bit of room to move. He's not kicking the back of a seat. He has his iPad. If he wants to stand up in that little area, he can. We've actually had him on the floor of the airplane playing with his Thomas trains because he doesn't bother anybody. He's right there. Now, occasionally we get on. There are people in wheelchairs sitting there. We have to go back to other seats. But typically we try to get the bulkhead. We try to do that because we board first. So that's a travel hack I can definitely say as a special needs parent is something we try to do every single time. And not just for us, because I like having a tray table. So I have to give that up, but it's for the benefit of the passengers because again, he's not kicking the seats. He's not bothering anybody because he's up there in his own little corner of the plane itself. So travel hacks from you guys. What are some things that maybe
I have
people
a
aren't thinking
question
about?
for you about
Yes.
pre-boarding with the medical certificate.
Yep.
Can one parent pre-board, or do you have to be pre-boarding with the person who has the medical
It
endorsement?
depends. Usually they tell you that one parent and the child or whoever the person is can board. Most of the time they will let us board together. And we'll just ask, we talk to the gate agent right there and say, hey, we're medical pre-check, we're pre-boarding. And most of the time they'll say, yeah, mom, dad, you both can go on with your child. Okay, because they know we're going to save the seat regardless. I mean, that's what happens every single time. My wife just puts down a jacket on the seat. Occasionally they will say, okay, just one parent and the child, and she'll go on and she'll try to save the seat. Or sometimes I'll sit behind him so he's not banging the seat and everything. But yeah, usually we can board together. So we can't bring the whole family on, which like if we have grandparents with us, like everybody can't come on at once.
Sure.
But yeah.
I asked because somebody recommended this to me the other day, and they suggested instead of pre-boarding with your young children, that one parent should go on, get your stuff settled in your seat, get your stuff in the overhead, and then your kids aren't sitting there like in that stressful time where people are putting things over their head and people are walking past them. And I don't know. I thought to myself, I don't know if airlines are going to allow that, but it's a smart way to think about that your kids you're burning off energy outside at the gate, and you're the last one to get on, knowing that somebody else in your party has already secured seats and gotten your stuff stowed.
Well, and that's a good idea too. And it really is going to be dependent on the airline and dependent on the child itself. Like our child loves airplanes. So when we get on, he's automatically looking out the window immediately. He's playing with his belt buckle. He's looking around the corner in the cockpit. Like, he loves being on the plane itself. He cannot wait to get on that plane. So for him, it's dandy for him to be on the plane. He's great. Other children, you may be the exact same thing as you're saying. They may not want to sit there on the airline because it's a good 30 minutes before you actually do anything once you get on board. So that again is a parental decision. Talk to the gate agent, see what you can work out. If it's something where you're like, hey, my child needs to stay out here, we want to board last, but we can't sit in the back of the plane, talk to them. I would guess that the airlines are going to work with you on that, especially if you have that on your ticket. But you got to get that on your ticket. A lot of times you do that at the gate when you arrive with your people and get your ticket from the gate. So
this is probably the one piece of advice I would give to anybody when you need something, whether it's a medical need or something else. You've got to ask for what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
But you'd be
and
amazed.
Be nice about it.
Of course. Yes. Ask kindly, smile, ask how the gate agent's day is going, all those things, to be a good human. And you'll be amazed when you just very clearly communicate what you need. So many times they're going to go out of their way to accommodate you and help you have a good experience.
Absolutely. And I would go that the kindness goes for all of this. Because the people behind the counter typically are not making the decisions. They're going on the information they have or what they've been told. Even every now and then, even if they decide that they can make the decision, but they choose not to do it in your favor, I'm guessing there's usually a reason for that. So, you're going to get more by being nice, by being kind, especially if it ever comes up later. You can say, hey, I wasn't the one screaming. I didn't yell. I kept
Right.
everything on the level, you know, and
Mhm.
this is what happened versus,
Right.
yeah, I kind of lost my temper and I threw some stuff at them and I threw coffee at them and they yelled at me and it was all bad. Don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. You don't want that to happen. So any other flight hacks? I know there's 1,000 flight hacks, but anything off top of mind, like 1 or 2 things you can think of that people might want to know?
During the pandemic, I flew Frontier a lot. I was living in Chicago and air travel was super inexpensive.
Mhm.
So I learned that on those budget carriers, you have to pay extra to get a seat assignment, and I didn't want to do that. So I've learned that if I'm flying one of those and I don't pay for a seat assignment, especially if I'm by myself, if I wait to check in until like I'm at the airport, I need a boarding pass to get through security, but
Mhm.
I'm checking in as late as I possibly can because they're going to start assigning seats from the back of the airplane and work their way up.
Good to know.
And the longer I waited,
Interesting.
especially if I could find the page on the website that would show me the seat map, I could sort of
Mhm.
strategically time that and either get myself an aisle seat, which is my preference, or so many times as a single traveler, I would end up in their extra stretch section because they were
Nice.
out of seats in the back of the airplane.
I like that.
Nicely
That's
Mhm.
done.
awesome. Work the system. I like it. Very,
Hey.
very good. So let's talk about driving, renting cars. And as I mentioned
Oof.
before, my sister-in-law, and I can share this story really briefly, but my sister-in-law had an experience where they were her family was going to out west. They were going to go driving through California, Oregon, Washington, kind of take like a 10-day trip, you know, out there. And they got to Seattle, and my sister had gone onto Priceline.com and rented a car, rented an SUV. Well, apparently got rerouted somehow and rented on the page that is for international travelers. Now she signed up for American dollars. She had a price set up and everything. She had everything printed out. She got to the counter and the counter at budget told her, yeah, we can't rent you this car because you signed up for an international traveler and you're American, so we can't do it. And of course, she'd already been to the airport several hours and went back and forth, back and forth. And of course, they came back with well, here's what we're going to do for you. Versus, of course, she was very upset because she's like, you don't need to do anything for me. This is what I paid for. We have a car.
Right.
They basically strong armed her into getting insurance. And so she had to sign up for insurance and she's having to call the credit card company, that whole thing. So my advice on this, if you choose to use Priceline, Expedia, Hotwire, Kite, any of those kind of discount sites, know what you're getting into. Also understand too that when you talk to those like the hotel or the car company or whoever you're talking to that you rented for, note that they're working with those companies as well. You've worked for that company. They're going to direct you to go to that Priceline versus we're going to help you here because you now
Mhm.
work with Priceline to negotiate a price versus
Mhm.
working with us directly. And that's going to
Mhm.
make it very, very hard. So just understand the risks that when you do that, you can save some money. And most of the time, it's probably going to work out just fine for you. But just know that, especially during the pandemic, we heard horror stories of people losing their money
Mhm.
because they couldn't get refunds on anybody because in the contract in tiny print, it says something like, if there's this going on, we don't refund anything or whatever.
Mhm.
So just understand that you probably should just call your travel planner. And there's something to be said about paying a little extra for the security of knowing that you're going to be okay. There's something
Mhm.
about that I think is a big deal. So renting cars, driving, what do we need to know travel hack wise?
Well, one thing, and this is important, and even when we rent cars for people,
Mhm.
whomever, because you still have to give a credit card when you get to,
Yes.
even if it's prepaid, right? You
Yep.
still have to give them a credit card at the counter for incidentals or whatever if you take
Mhm.
longer. The credit card must match the driver's license name. That has
Yes.
to be a thing. You're not going to have grandma paying for the car, but
Right.
Jim Bob is is doing the driving. If
Right.
Jim Bob is giving his license, Jim Bob's got to have a credit card. So
Right.
those have to match.
Very good. Very good. Also, and I learned this too a couple of weeks ago, do not come to a credit card. No, do not come to the rental place with a debit card because most of the places will
Oh,
not
good
rent
one.
to you. Had this happen with a friend of mine, our agent Emily, and I was with her when she was getting her car, and I had to put my credit card down because all she had was a debit card, which makes sense because if they're going to charge you at the end, what if you don't have money in your account? Then that's a whole thing. So she came out with only a debit card. She was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know why I didn't bring my credit card." And so don't show up with just a debit card. Make sure you have a card in hand.
Also, they will
Also,
freeze your money if you do
it will
use a
freeze your
debit
money.
card.
Exactly, exactly. And I will, and none of us are ever going to tell you to get or not get insurance. That is a personal decision with your travel planner. You can discuss, you can have. Just know what you're getting. and know what you've already got, because you may or
Yes.
may not need it depending on what you already have in your own
Mhm.
life with coverage. So that's just an idea there
Right.
as well. So Sarah Good Bananas, any thoughts on renting cars and driving
Well,
and travel?
yeah, speaking of not needing it, so many clients ask me for their Disney vacation specifically,
Mhm.
should I rent a car? Because they want to get from the airport, maybe they want to go someplace else in town. I don't think it's worth it when we're at Disney. It's a hassle to park,
Right.
it takes time.
Yep.
And it, to me, but using Disney transportation is part of the fun. So
Right.
forego it. There's so many easy ways to get to the airport from your resort or vice versa. And getting back and forth to the parks is pretty simple. Disney's got a
Right.
system for you. So
Mhm.
just forego the expense of a rental car.
Agreed. And if you want to go somewhere else, you could always use an Uber or a Lyft. Like if you are going
Yes.
offsite
Absolutely.
for
Yep.
something,
Yep.
and
Yes.
honestly, it's probably going to even help, and you'll probably still be spending less than the gas
Correct.
and the
Mhm.
rental and etc.
Correct.
Right. Now, what we do, and this is great, we can transition to Disney as well. We go every March. And as I mentioned before, our child has a doctor in Melbourne, Florida. So we go and go to the doctor, and then we take a 2-hour appointment and wrap a 7-day Disney trip around it, which is fitting.
I mean, it makes
Um,
sense, honestly.
But we will rent a car for the first day. We'll rent a car. We'll go to Publix and Whole Foods that night, get all that we need for his special diet, snacks and things like that. And then we'll turn it in the next morning. And what we'll do is you go to the car care center and turn it in, and they will shuttle you to your resort for
Mhm.
free. And so, which is, you have to know, and I forget, is it National, Alamo, and Enterprise?
It's
maybe?
National and it's Enterprise. I don't know if Enterprise, actually it's Alamo and just National. I think it's just those two.
Okay, maybe just those two. You can always call
Yeah.
and check, but there's a certain ones they will rent or they will pick up from there. Don't show up there with like a Hertz or an Avis, because I don't really take them there. But yeah, they will take the car from you, and they will shuttle you to your place, or they will come pick you up from your resort to bring you there to pick up a car if you need it. So it's a very cool system they have in place for rental cars. But Sarah Goes Bananas is right. I don't do a lot of rental cars other than just the necessary. We have to go to Whole Foods, we have to run around, go to the doctor, and then let's get rid of the car because we want to ride the Skyliner. We love the
Mhm.
Skyliner.
And there's so many ways. If you need groceries or something, sometimes private transfer companies will stop at a grocery store for you so you can have a
Mhm.
little bit of time to shop. But you can also Instacart and have groceries delivered right to your resort. So if that's the only reason that you're renting a car, you still don't
Yeah.
need one.
Agreed.
Very cool. Yep. And also you can call our good friends at Bluebird Gifting Company,
That's right.
which does a lot of pickup and delivery. Now, I don't know that she's going to do a full-on grocery delivery yet, but if you need a case of water, contact her. She might be able to help you out there and kind of
Mhm.
bring you a few things here and there. Our good friend Emily, who does a lot of this in town, and she's started a great business, and it's awesome. And we'll have contact information later on. But let's talk Disney real quick, because we could spend the next 4 hours talking Disney
Yeah.
travel hacks. We really, really could. My biggest travel hack for Disney is simply this: meter your expectations. Understand you cannot do it all. You're not going to be able to. Whether you've been there once or 50 times, there are probably still things you have never done. I've been there probably 30 times. There are still things I have yet to do, places I have yet to eat, things I have yet to see because I just haven't had time to do them yet. Always work with your travel planner. Get a good plan in place about what's the most important thing to do. A lot of times that we would tell our children, I would tell children simply, or tell parents to tell children this: hey, kids, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things you want to do the absolute most you want to do? We're going to
Mhm.
make sure those things are done. Everything else is just kind of wrapped around it. And
Yeah.
Sarah, with kids, you have some great ideas because I follow your page. So give us some parenting tips on taking your kids to Disney.
Yeah, we've got 4 kids and they span a pretty big age range. So we've got teens all the way down to a preschooler. That means everybody wants to do something different. So number one, just don't feel like your family has to stay together all the time. There's so many moments that I've taken, maybe I'm going to take a younger kid while my husband takes the older kids on something bigger. And so there's no reason for people to be standing around doing nothing at Disney. Split up, let kids
Mhm.
do what matches their interests or
Right.
height requirements. And then you're going to have some anchor points in your schedule, like meals or parades or fireworks.
Mhm.
You're going to have plenty of family time. You're actually doing yourself a favor by scheduling some apart time on your family vacation so that everybody gets what they need.
Yeah, the larger the family, the more that is so important, because I love grandma and grandpa. They love our grandkids. They love all of us. But sometimes you're like, you know what, grandparents, y'all go over here. We'll go
Mhm.
over there. and we'll have a good time,
Mhm.
separately. Jen, you of course don't travel with children very often, because you have none of your own. It's just you and your hubs a lot of times. So travel tips for the couple, for the people without children, that like to go to the Disney a lot. What are some things that maybe they need to know if without kids?
So if you're going without kids, of course, you have a little bit more flexibility because it's just the two of you. We are huge fans of taking breaks midday for a nap
Mhm.
because as an adult, a nap is basically the best vacation thing you can ever do in your life. It's like
Yes.
I have
Mhm.
guilt-free sleep right now. I don't have to work, don't have to do whatever else. So don't be afraid to do that and then go back in the evening because while the families are ready for the fireworks or eating dinner or taking the kids back because they're having a meltdown.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
you
Yep.
are enjoying cooler temperatures and some shorter lines as well. So also as an adult, if you want to rope drop, awesome.
Mhm.
But don't feel like you have to rope drop. Because guess what?
Yep.
It'll still be there. And you can sleep in because again, is wonderful.
We'll get there
Enjoy
when we
your
get there.
resort. Exactly. Enjoy your resort because you're spending money, yes, to go to the parks, but also yes to enjoy those resorts and take advantage because there are great restaurants, lounges. There's just so much to do on like especially like a deluxe resort, but even at like, moderates and I'm sure at the fictional all-star something. I don't know what that is, but there's probably
Even
some
at the value, whatever it's called.
but use it as an experience. So, as adults who travel all the time, that's what I would say. And festivals, take advantage of the
Oh
festivals.
yes, definitely.
1,000%.
I can say, Sarah, that whenever you said you stayed at the Poly, I just saw Jen's eyes light up, and she thought I could just tell her thinking, "She's one of us. She's one of my people. I love her already."
Oh, we've definitely done our time staying in the values. There's a whole
Mhm.
trip where we were at All Star Sports, and you got to learn some lessons the hard way every now and then.
My biggest, and I'll come at this as a parent of again special needs in Disney. One of my biggest travel hacks is definitely utilize the DAS Pass, the
Mm,
Disability Access Service. It is an amazing
Mhm.
service for families. But what I have from clients a lot of times is they try to do the pre-registration the 30 days out, and they get so stressed out because either they can't connect or maybe something goes wrong or whatever, they don't know what to do. Do not stress out about that. The pre-registration is great. It will save you some time. But if you don't keep registered, it takes you literally 5 minutes at the beginning of your vacation to take care of it. It is that fast and that easy. So do not stress if you can't get pre-registered. I recommend trying, but if you don't, also when they pre-register you, a lot of times they will give you attractions that maybe aren't quote unquote the best, because some of the ones they don't pre-register are your rock and roller coasters, your Tower of Terrors, your Space Mountains. Those are the ones you can easily do when you get there. So what I've
Mhm.
told clients too, when I see their Disney Experience account, I'm like, oh, I see you've got a 2 o'clock Jungle Cruise and a 4 o'clock Monsters Inc. laugh floor. That's great. If you want those, let's discuss maybe deleting those as soon as you get there and maybe get you a Space Mountain and we'll get you a Big Thunder at like
Yep.
10 or something.
Yep.
Really, it's not even
Exactly.
the attraction, it's the times they set up because
mhm.
Yeah.
that's the way their system works. So do
Right.
not stress out about it. Again, talk
No.
to your travel planner, pick us. We're happy to help you on that as well. But if you're stressed out about it, don't. It's gonna be okay. It literally
We
takes
also
five.
have a kiddo who
Yes.
qualifies, and we use DAS when we
Ah,
travel
Mhm.
together. And
Yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. That pre-registration is cumbersome. It takes a long
Mhm.
time. Sometimes you get
Yep.
disconnected. And like we've already said, there's no reason to stress about anything else in your life. You got enough going on. It's so
Yep.
easy to just go to guest services. And I always tell clients, don't go to the like big one that's right there towards the
Mhm.
entrance of every park. Walk into the park a little bit further and look for a blue umbrella. There will be no
Those
line.
people are wonderful.
Right,
Yep.
and
I
it's
love those people.
you get the same
Yes.
service. It's
It's the
their
same.
guest relations
Mhm.
there, and
Yep.
they're ready to help you. You'll find multiple cast members without anybody in
Mhm.
line in front of you. Everybody stopped at that main one toward the entrance. Just keep
Yeah.
walking by. You'll see
Right.
another one and can take care of it so much faster.
And
Right.
I will say that happened when we were just in the parks. We met up with my sister-in-law and her husband, and they were traveling with a friend who does need the accommodations of the DAS
Mhm.
pass. And so of course they're all on that with their friend. Well,
Right.
Brady and I weren't, but literally they just stopped at the Blue Umbrella, like, hey, they just joined us. Can we get them on? It was no
Mhm.
problem. They just doot, 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 doot. Oh, do you
Yep.
want us to add them to those? Okay, doot, doot, doot. Like just added us. It was super duper easy for that day, and they were very accommodating. So
Yeah. So it's whenever I had my incident last summer where I was in the hospital for a night and we went to the parks like a week later, I got the DAS pass for myself and I was able to put on different people. We went to a Blue Umbrella and I was able to add, a few of the agents that were with me. We were able to do a few things here and there. And so, yeah, it really is that simple. Utilize those Blue Umbrellas. They're amazing,
They're great.
amazing cast members. Again, with kindness, because sometimes you don't get the answers you really, really want. But it is like a parent. They know what's best for you. They're going to take care of you regardless, I promise. So as we kind of wrap this discussion up, one more topic. I want to talk about all-inclusive. When you're leaving the country, when you're going to resorts in Mexico or the Caribbean or wherever. And I have not done a lot of these. I've booked several, but I've not experienced a lot of them on my own. But one of the things I do know, because whenever I went to Mexico for the very first time, I was nervous as a wreck because I'd never been, and it was just me. And so even though I'd been talked through it by Jenn and by several other people who'd been many times, I'm still like, once you're there, it's like, am I going to the right place? Am I going to the right, what am I doing here? I don't really know. One travel hack that I remember very specifically, and this is Cancun, and I'm assuming other places will do this too, but when you set your transfers up, they have a transfer area where all your transfers will be, your shuttles and people like that. As you walk through the airport, you walk through that area, you will have dozens and dozens of people holding up forms, yelling at you, talking to you, saying, sign with us, you're supposed to come here. They will tell you, hey, do you have this form? Do you have that form? They're wanting you to stop. They want to engage you to tell you that, oh, you don't have everything you need. You should come with us. Who knows where they're going to take you? It may be just a timeshare thing. We don't know. But if you have your transfers in hand and you know what your transfers are, you have your confirmation number, especially if you work for your travel agent, just keep walking through, ignoring all the noise, get to your shuttle, and you're going to be okay. That's a huge thing I try to tell my clients as well. Hey, I know they're going to sound important and you're going to sound like, did I do the right thing? Maybe I should listen to this guy over here. Don't. Just go.
Just keep going.
Get in, find your shuttle people. They should be very identifiable. I know with Longmas Travel. I know with
Amstar.
I was trying to think of Amstar.
There's many other ones.
And many other ones. Those are two that I'm familiar with. They have specific outfits, specific vans, whatever. Just make sure that you don't pay attention to all that. You have your transfer set up. You'll be okay. So travel hacks, all inclusives. What do we need to know?
I love to bring my own Yeti cup because all inclusive, right? You can go to the bar as many times as you want, but there's usually a long line to do that. That can become crowded spaces. So I take my 30-ounce Yeti, I get whatever I want, and I can sit by the beach or by the pool for a long time before I need a refill.
Smart.
Nice.
And plus it keeps it nice and cold. Because
it does. Yes. Otherwise, you're just going to get a plastic cup with a straw. And
it's like sweating.
Right? It's sweating. There's like barely 8 ounces with ice in that cup. And you're going to need another one of those stat.
So the Yeti, that's a good travel hack. I would say, good travel hack. I mean, there's several. When you're like around the pool or at the beach, I like to start it. And of course, definitely you need to give gratuity at all inclusive.
Yes, absolutely.
Unless it's specifically one that doesn't. Okay. So sandals, unless you're at butler level, they don't accept gratuities.
Right.
However, the majority of other ones, they'll say that they're included, which ish. They are highly recommended. Right. Start off your day if you're at the pool. Like I just like to start with like a 20, because then guess what? That server is going to be checking on you very regularly.
Right.
And it just sets up a good relationship for the day. And then like later on in the day, you can, do another 5. You don't have to another 20, it doesn't even have to be a 20, but I'm just saying, if you start up front, you are going to get some better service. And same thing with housekeeping. Make sure you leave the housekeeping. I like to leave a 5 every day, and it's a different person every day. So, or it could be a different person every day. So don't just assume like, hey, I'm tipping the first day and it's going to go the whole way through. So I just say a little goes a long way in the service industry.
I encourage my clients to tip generously if they can. Take 1s and 5s and 10s with you. Don't get there just with your debit card or credit card trying to find an ATM, because it's a much harder process.
Nope,
don't do it.
Don't do it.
And so, people recommend, how much you take. Honestly, the last time I was there for a week, I think I took like $250 in 1s, 5s, and 10s. Keep it safe on you, obviously. Put it in a safe place on your person, so where it can't be picked
or in your safe,
or in your safe as well. But have those singles available to give to people, to put a 5 down, to put two 10s or 20 down in somebody's hands if you need to, because you're right. And much like a lot of people here in this country, they depend on those tips. A lot of people are supporting their families with those tips. And so it's a different set of I guess, cultural. I'm gonna say cultural. Whatever what I'm looking for, it's a different time down there, and so people are, they really support their
Well,
friends
after
with those tips, and
COVID,
so-
COVID really hit
Yes.
them hard.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, it
because
did.
they
Mhm.
didn't have a lot of the same, in the US, we had a lot of different support systems
Right.
that
Right.
kicked in from the government level.
Mhm.
That was not the case in other countries. I mean, I'm sure some other countries had
Right.
it, but
Right.
let's say specifically in those countries with all-inclusive resorts,
Mhm.
many of them didn't have that support. So the gratuities really do go a long way for those
Yes.
folks.
Very
The other
good.
thing I always bring, cash is king, right? That's always the
Right.
universal language of gratitude. But I usually travel with some chocolates in my bag. So I'll go to Target or something like that and
Oh.
just pick up
Mhm.
like just a treat, because a lot of times I do this, whether I'm at an all-inclusive or on a cruise, they don't have access to the same kind of products that are so easy
What a
for us
great
to
I
get.
like it.
idea.
And it's consumable. They often don't have a ton of space in their cabin or their accommodation. So this is an easy something that just makes them feel special. I can
Mhm.
write a
I
handwritten
love
note
that.
on top of a really great gratuity.
That's
It's a good
great.
idea. It's really, really good.
I really
Really good.
like
Hopefully
that.
your chocolates will survive the heat.
They always go in my checked luggage in
Smart.
between layers, so that
Good
even if
idea.
it's sitting out on the hot
Yep.
tarmac, it's somewhat protected.
Yeah, kind of.
Good idea.
Good.
So very good. Any other thoughts on anything that maybe came to mind as we were discussing?
Here, traveling with kids, we've talked about that a little bit. And one of the biggest challenges in traveling with children is sleep. You're in a hotel room, you're outside of
Mm.
your regular space. And I know that hotels all have blackout curtains, but there's always like that little gap in between, right? The sun
Yep.
comes in,
Mhm.
and inevitably you're going to have a kiddo who wakes up the minute the sun is
At the
peeking
crack
through,
of dawn.
right?
Yes.
And so grabbing a hanger, this is like my best hotel hack.
I love this, by the way.
Grabbing a hanger out of the closet, the one that has the clippies on it, and clipping the two panels of your blackout curtains together, that's like 2 hours of bonus sleep right there. Just do that. One hour extra per clip, you're good to go.
The first time I saw that hack, I was like, where has this been my whole
It's such a genius thing that
It's
nobody
so
thinks about.
smart.
It's like, oh yeah. So, all right, now I have to ask you just personally for both of you guys, are you a live out of your suitcase for the several days you're there, or do you unpack into the dressers?
I unpack.
I
do too.
unpack. I do.
do too.
Yeah. Oh, we're all unpackers.
Yeah.
Unpack.
Whether it's the family or it's just me, I will unpack. And
I hate an untidy space.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we like whenever we go, because there's not a lot of guys in our agency, Sarah. So whenever we go, I always end up rooming with our good agent Cliff. And so he lives out of a suitcase, and me, I'm putting stuff in the drawers. I'm like, are you gonna take this drawer? No, you're good, man. All right. So I take the drawer too. And then I have a drawer for dirty clothes because they're all empty. One for dirty clothes. And 2 days later, I'm like putting everything back in my suitcase. And I mean, I'll do it for 2 nights. I really will. I will unpack to kind of spread out a little bit. And if I'm in a room by myself, I will literally take that extra bed and just spread out stuff all over it. Because it's me and I don't care. So yeah.
I think packing cubes are clutch if you're an unpacker on vacation too, because you can just pick up that cube and stick it in the drawer. And often then at the end of the trip, one of those cubes becomes the dirty laundry cube. So it's real easy to just throw that in the laundry when we get home. It just keeps everything organized.
I don't
Absolutely.
use packing cubes, and I guess I
Why?
should, because everybody talks about how good they are.
They are game
You know.
changing. And Sarah, I just got a new packing cube that is a compression packing cube. And can I tell you?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I just had normal packing cubes, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get these." Like, so thanks
The
for telling me
best.
about it.
Okay. Jen, do you roll your stuff to get it in the cube, or do you lay it flat?
So I typically, most of it I roll. What do you do?
I'm a flat layer.
Oh, you're a flat layer.
Which in the
Okay.
compression cubes, you'll have to try this. So
Okay.
the key is to fold it as close to the size of the packing cube as you can get, right? So like my
Okay.
shirts, I just sort of like lay the shirt in the cube and fold it up in half and kind of tuck in the sleeves.
Okay. Yeah.
Then my clothes come out less wrinkled when I get to wherever I'm going. And the
Nice.
compression works to get them even flatter than if they're rolled.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to try that for this
Yeah.
next trip.
This sounds like content that
that's-
needs to be made.
I agree. I feel like it's like here's the cube where I roll, and here's the cube where I
Right?
lay
Let's
flat.
count how many t-shirts can we get in
What
each
can we
way.
do?
Love it.
Yeah, and this is going to be for a
Love it.
10-night trip. So
Okay. Yeah.
I
Then
love
your
it.
compression cubes are going to really be amazing.
this is and I just bought my husband a set, so I invested heavily in packing cubes.
Okay. And then I always
Nice.
wear my most bulky pair of shoes onto the
Oh
airplane.
yeah. No, that's
Mhm.
smart.
Don't put those in your suitcase.
See, even
No,
that I
it's
knew.
too hard.
That I knew. Yeah. My sandals go in the
Because-
suitcase. My sandals that I like to wear with socks, just to make our agent
No,
Kyla mad.
no, you're not allowed to wear sandals. No, just stop. No. Also,
Sarah,
agent. Oh, I was going to tell her about.
On our first all-inclusive, again, I had not been on all-inclusives, but I knew better than wear socks with sandals because, it's kind of a fashion faux pas. But we were all going out to dinner, and just for funsies, I was like, I'm going to wear socks with sandals because I think it's hilarious, and I'm going to watch Kyla and Jen squirm because I'm wearing socks with sandals. Well, Jen decided that she was going to skip dinner and just go to sleep because it had been a long day of travel for her, and of course, Kyla saw me.
I was so tired.
She was like, no, you can't stand by me. That's just, what are you doing? And of course the joke was ruined because Jen didn't show up for dinner. She couldn't be bothered to show up because she'd only had like
Listen,
an hour
I was up until midnight and then I had to wake up at 3 and then my first flight was canceled. So I have to take the other flight and then I had to lay over and it was a whole thing. And it was
travel.
Socks with sandals seems perfectly on brand for you, David. I would have taken a photo with you and we would have laughed about it real hard.
Oh, I have a photo with a very appalled look on her face, and I'm pointing at them, which I don't really do socks and sandals. Well, actually, I don't, and I don't do Crocs either. Much as I'm teased about them, I don't actually wear Crocs either. So maybe I should. If I'm going to get the brunt of the jokes about them, I might as well just go ahead and go all in. Go all in. No. Buy me some gibbets that go in little holes there, and make sure I stand next to Jen for every picture. Hey, look,
oh my
Jen,
gosh, no.
Crocs.
Stop.
Jen, you're going on a cruise very soon. When you're leaving? Like a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I leave at the end of the month. The cruise departs on the 22nd. So I leave the evening of the 20th. And I will be sailing away.
Very nice.
Hooray.
Very fun. So where can people follow you online to follow all the adventures of the cruise and all the fun things you got coming up later this summer?
Yeah, you can follow me at Upon a Star Jen, or my personal Instagram is at Jen_Novotny. And of course, we'll be posting on the agency page, et cetera,
of course.
All of the things.
So, and Sarah, I mentioned earlier how great your Instagram is. It really is. You're one of my favorite follows. I love all the stuff that you post, and I steal it for my very own and not give you credit because that's what I do. But where can we find you, Sarah, online?
On Instagram, I'm Sarah Goes Bananas. That's Sarah with an H. Or if you just want to head to our agency website, we're purplebananatravel.com.
Very nice. Find me online on Instagram at The Magic on a Dollar, and find me, of course, on Facebook at Magic on a Dollar and Disney on a Dollar on both sites. And of course, Upon a Star Travel, we're on all the places like Jen mentioned, TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and all those places as well. And of course, the MSC podcast. You can find us at all those places as well. And Disney Demystified, Disney Vacation Demystified. I saw the last episode you guys had was April. Are you guys having new episodes coming up soon?
We're on sabbatical right now, but we will definitely be back to podcasting.
Get that. I get that completely.
Yep.
Of course, you can find it all the podcast places too, because I found it on iTunes very easily. I've listened to the last few. I go back to the beginning, which is why I asked you about Purple Banana, the name itself. But you can definitely listen to those online as well. So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. This was a ton of fun.
So glad you came.
And Jen, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad we don't have to talk about All Stars anymore because now you're here. For Jen and for Sarah, I'm Dave, and don't forget to thank your Phoenicians.
Thank you for listening to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the MSE Podcast, or visit our website at themsepodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe, and may all your wishes come true.